Hi, I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Thank you for being here. I'm going to continue reading Gasoline Rainbows, and I'll just pick up where I left off. Okay. So again, this is called Gasoline Rainbows. This is the fifth section, I believe the fifth that I've read. And if you are just now joining, you can go back and maybe watch the first four. And so this is just like a continual reading. Okay, so I'll just pick up where I left off. The crying noise came again, attached to a big dog crawling towards him with its head reared back but still moving forward. The dog came into the light, and I saw he was unkempt. His hair was covering his eyes, and his cream-colored fur was matted and clotted with dirt. Poor fella. He inched his way to the beckoning hand and whimpered as he got closer, but marched on with the fire of curiosity burning him. He smelled the hand timidly, but the hand soon turned upward and tried to caress the mange-infested ear. The poor fellow was all bleeps and elbows getting to my side, and I, startled, had backed myself against the wall. The man was fully into the candlelight, still crouched. His head hung. Being rejected by an animal hurts, sure enough, and he was too eager. It showed in the way the blue knots got watery and far away, and it was clear he had needed to pet or be petted for quite some time. "Do you live here?" I asked him. I knew him, but where from? Why did I know this person? "Could I use a phone?" I asked. But he said no words. The flames died once more, and I sunk hopelessly to a puddle on the dusty ground. It smelled like my grandma's house. I drew my knees up and buried my head, refusing to lift it even when the candles revived themselves, refusing out of fear of what would be before my eyes this time. Poor fella came to my side. Yeah. Huh? Why? They cried? Oh, they cried. Okay. They cried. Okay, they cried. Frankie's helping me narrate. Okay. Poor fella came to my side, pressing desperately to me. A voice came through my ears saying, "He's gone." I clenched tighter and heard again the voice saying, "We're safe." Looking around to see only poor fella, I whispered to him, asking if we really were safe and how he would know. The thing looked at me, and those eyes swallowed me and showed me pictures I was a part of, moving inside of. Fields of butterflies, and falling in love with arms around me in the night, and myself laughing with cheeks burning in too warm sun, and diving into a bed of down blankets and little kittens climbing on my face. I stayed curled in a ball on the floor, not willing to move to the darker caverns of the house while it was still night. Poor fella stayed beside me and was there when my eyes came awake in the morning. The bathroom had a small little mirror with a white lacquered frame above the sink. My skin was the darkest thing in the whole bathroom in the light of the next morning. The dirt on the walls was still paler than me even in the middle of the winter I just came out of. My eyes were sunk so that they showed a man who had a restless night behind him. The dark hair on my head was buzzed and showing my skull the way that my mom buzzes it. She does my dad's the same way. She lined me and my dad and my brother up and would buzz us one after another, cigarette hanging out of her lips and squinting against the smoke rising and itching her eyes. It made the razor eat our hair faster. It fell in big clumps down our backs and to the floor. Looking in the glass now, I could see the scar right above my left ear, and the way that dark hair would never grow there again. My eyes were looking murky today. They were dull and deep and empty of character, just two little dried up raisins in my head. And here he's remembering people who had talked about him. Milkman's baby. He's our little milkman's baby, isn't he, Tom? And his dad says, "Don't call him that." And his mom says, how else do you explain his darkness? I'm blonde, you're blonde, Bryn is blonde. There's nothing wrong with it. He's just a little different. And the dad says, he's just been in the sun a little too much. Makes his face like that. His skin just takes a little different to its all. Don't say that, Claire. And then someone else is telling him, Fielder, you're a you-know-what if I ever did see one. Your daddy one of them dark guys? Because I know your mama is as blonde as corn silk. Your real daddy dark then? Is he? Is he? Are you? That's not polite. That's not polite to ask another person, Uriel. You gonna tattle or something? No, it's just not nice. It makes me feel bad. It could hurt someone. Someone who doesn't know you're just kidding. You from Africa? You know, Mom, I was born in Plain Cap.
Hey, Mom,
you know I was. You can stand right here, yeah. You know I was born in Plain Cap. You know I was, just like you. I stayed in that house all day. I stayed in that house all day, only going to the kitchen once to find hardened greenish bread for me and poor fella. You guys can sit by me. You just gotta kind of sit calmly, please. House all day, only going to the kitchen once to find hardened greenish bread for me and poor fella. The bedroom had a bed with a patchwork quilt and a small bronze frame holding a faded black and white picture of a man and woman on their wedding day. They were not smiling, they were not touching. The closet held clothes that were barely moth-bitten. Long dresses took half the hanging space. The dressers held a few threadbare pairs of overalls and button-up work shirts with yellow pit stains ingrained in the thread for eternity. The razors in the bathroom were lined up perfectly, each with the kind of detachable razor blade a man would have to sharpen himself. Hi. A jar of Vitalis, its jelly surface untouched.
Can we do some popcorn real quick?
Yeah. Sat on the edge of a faintly pink porcelain sink. I kept my back to the walls and cabinets, scared to leave my back open in case the candle man came back for me or my pet friend. The cabinets were laid thick in dust sheets, like what you remove from the dryer trap. On the wall, there was a calendar made of scratchy cloth that read 1937 and had all the months arranged. I stared into the backyard through the kitchen window a long time, seeing miles of unpopulated bean fields. No houses, no people or cars or animals. I was doubly afraid to go back outside for the first hours I was awake until the house's sighing drove me out with poor fella. We sat out there on the hard green ground. Fella sat by me, looking at me now and then to see me still looking around. The sky above us was timidly blue, but was being swallowed by the big clouds shifting and playing with each other. The wind was still blowing and pushing the beans in the field around, swaying their bodies. We stayed outside. That cloud looks like a tractor. That one looks like a bone maybe, or a lamppost. I would hear the nowhere voice say. Poor fellow would look to me, and I would look back to him, and all I could do was nod and say, "It sure does." And I couldn't tell you how long we stayed out there, but it was long enough to think that this was it. I had somehow burnt up all my sanity and was living inside my own pitiful brain, and this empty place was all it could produce. But the voice said, "You're not crazy." Poor fellow's furry eyelids would slide down his eyes, and the pink of his tongue poked out, and his mouth looked like it was smiling, so that all I could do was cry. This was it. Dogs were speaking to me. A truck pulled past on the dirt road in front of the house. I watched it knowing it wouldn't be, but praying so hard my teeth were grinding that my friends would be inside. The truck was not theirs. It was a red with a white stripe, big cabbed machine filled with 3 men in straw hats. They slowed when they saw me, all 6 eyes glued to me. They slid past, then reversed so that the truck was directly in front of me. The car opened up, and they all got out on the one side. They each had a lit cigarette, and one had a glass container of some honey-colored thing. He nipped it, sucked in air through his mossy, black-bordered teeth. His mouth made a sizzling sound as he passed the jar to the next one. I dried my eyes, seeing these were not crying men. Hello? What business you got here, boy? The driver put to me. I don't know. I need help. My name is Fielder and I don't know where I am. Could you help me get home, please? I don't know what's happening to me. What you got is a whole hell of a lot of trouble. Where you come from? Plain Cap? What town is this? The one with the jar spoke up. This about the dumbest sumbitch I ever seen. Don't even know the town he's at. He elbowed his buddy. Plain Cap? That somewhere's about here? That near Macon? Are you one of them Yankee boys? And Fielder answered, Alaska. They all looked at me like I had replied that Plain Cap was on Mars, or that I was not part of their planet. It didn't feel like I was. Could you please give me a ride home? Please. I'll give you gas money. I'll do anything. Boy, you sick or something? The little one asked. You got sickness in the head? I don't know. I'm scared. I'm so lost and scared. Well, you should be. Why you up in Clyde Dilly's house? You squatting? You taking up on another man's property? Because if you was, I might just have to take you behind that shed and... I put my head down. The tears were streaming down the length of my face. Poor fellow went in front of me and sat on my feet. I ain't scared of that ugly little mutt neither. I blow him to pieces just like I do you. But my head would not rise and I couldn't fight. If they were going to kill me, I suppose there wasn't much I could do in the way of stopping them. So I just waited for my brains to be split with the bullets. Don't cry, it's all right. It's gonna be all right. He hears the voice say, it's gonna be all right. I picked my head up to see that the clouds were parted and streams of sunlight were beaming down. One was on us. The patches made polka dots of sun all over the lawn. I looked at the men and they looked at me. You got till sundown to get the holy living heck out of this town. You got that through your thick skull, kid? Poor fella rose up and went wild. He went mad. He snapped and bit their ankles and tore their easily shredded pant legs. He set upon them like he was more than he was, like he was more numerous and they were less. He got backhanded and kicked around. His fur was pulled. Along with being called many names, I knew he understood. I stood up and drew him back by his hind legs, which only made him like an arrow I was drawing back for another attack. He shook loose and sprang forward like a cannonball. He went right for the big man, who was ready with a reared back boot-clad foot. It made poor fellow fall to the ground. Satisfied, the men got in their truck, telling me once more, sundown. I picked up the slack body of my friend. I put him over my shoulder and could feel the throb of his heart against my temple. Our blood was touching, separated by only the skin that binds us. I took off into the soy field, the place I came from. I walked and walked with nothing to look at except the identical rows of beans and shifting sky ahead. There was a song my babysitter used to sing me when I got scared. I started singing to fella in case he was scared during the unconscious journey. Yeah.